Let's call to order this planning and zoning meeting, September the 2nd, 6:30 p.m. We have roll call and certification of a quorum, which we have. The only commissioner that is missing is Commissioner McDonald. So it's 6 of us. And now for the introduction of the agenda and the format of the hearing. Staff?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. First, we will have a call to order, followed by the staff report. Then the applicant will make a presentation. Then the public comment will be open and you can express support or opposition. Please state your name and address for the record, and please be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame. Afterwards, the commission and staff will have their discussion. The commission will then vote to recommend approval as presented, approval with conditions, denial of the request, or to table the item. City Council's consideration of the CUP requests will be on Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have the excused absences, along with approval of the P&Z regular meeting minutes from the August 18th meeting, as well as a replat of the Zamaron Special Subdivision, a final plat of Blue Track South, Section 1. Tonight on new business, we have a preliminary plat of Arcadian Estates, Section 5, as well as a conditional use permit for a recreation center private for profit, a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit, a conditional use permit for 2-family in Old Town Mixed Use District, a CUP for an expansion to an existing development for a warehouse and light assembly in the Clear Creek Spectrum PD, as well as discussing the Old Town Revitalization Plan. Thank you, Chair. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Katja. That brings us to the consent agenda. Is anyone wishing to remove any item from the consent agenda tonight? Okay, we have 2 commissioners.
Have a motion that we remove item D, where the 2 commissioners can stay in for the consent, and then we'll let D come in. But
Chair Fuertes?
Okay. All righty. Can I have a motion and a second for acceptance of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
second that motion.
Okay, anyone wanting to discuss any part of it? I see no. All those in favor of the consent agenda, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Passes 4-0. Okay, the first item is in new business. There were no items removed from the consent agenda, so moving into new business, we got consideration and possible action. RPL 2025-
Chair, apologize if I misunderstood. Mr. Eccles, did you ask for consent agenda item D to be removed, and is that what y'all did?
No, he withdrew it.
Oh, you withdrew it while they were walking out.
Yes, he withdrew.
Okay, and then they were excused from the chambers, so got it.
Okay, and I
Happened so
think
fast.
they're also on item 1 in the new business. They were both have to step out as well. Okay, consideration and possible action. First item on new business for RPL 2025-0369 preliminary plat of Arcadian Estates, Section 5. A request by Lauren Fuhr of BGE, the applicant, on behalf of KL LBBUY4 LLC, owner, for approval of a preliminary plat of Arcadian Estates, Section 5, creating 8 single-family lots, 3 reserves, 1 block on 5.48 acres of land located south of Old Massey Road and described. Location is south of Old Massey Road, east of future Harkey Road, and west of McLean Road, Pearland, Texas. Can I have a motion and a second for approve?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, and we're going to turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Bauer, and I'll be making the request tonight, or presenting the request tonight, my bad. So the request, as mentioned, is for the preliminary plat of Arcadian Estates, Section 5, and that is actually the last section in Arcadian Estates. And this is actually a part of the larger Massey Oaks development, but it's specifically a part of the Massey Oaks Ordino Tract addendum. And so here's that location, and that light green is that Massey Oaks PD zoning. And so here we get a look at the preliminary plat. It includes, as mentioned, 8 single-family lots that are a part of the cul-de-sac. And then it includes 3 reserves. 2 of them are landscape reserves, and one is actually the landscape reserve along Massey Oaks and Oak Preserve Drive. And then more of you'll notice this square reserve. That is actually for the future emergency services site. And so staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat with the following conditions. Condition 1 is that the final plat cannot be submitted until the regional infrastructure improvements have been completed, and or condition 2, a development agreement addressing the regional infrastructure improvements shall be drafted prior to the final plat submittal. And then condition 3, the last one, is that on the final plat submission, a note is necessary to be added to the plat to allow access to be provided through Reserve C, which is that landscape reserve along Old Massey and Oak Preserve Drive, for Reserve B, the emergency services site, so that access can be granted to Old Massey Ranch Road and Oak Preserve Drive. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant present? Do you have a presentation you wish? Okay, thank you. Persons wishing to speak for or against item number 1 on the new business? Seeing no one moving in that direction, I'm going to ask one more time. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to commission's discussion. Anybody wishing to discuss the plat for this?
My only thing is in the motion, it does not carry the 3 items of
Right.
recommendation. I move to amend the motion to the 3 items that's of the staff recommendation.
Okay, Trey, do you want to amend that motion to include?
Sure. I'd like to amend my motion to include the 3 conditions that staff has prepared for approval of the preliminary plat.
And for you on a second it? Didn't you?
Yes, I second.
Okay. All right, that's updated, so no further discussion. All right, all those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Passes 4-0. Can we bring the others back in now?
Was that a vote on the amended motion, or was that a vote
Yeah,
on
that was a
the?
vote on the amended motion.
Okay, then you need to.
Well, we revised the motion. He revised his motion to include the 3 amendments. So we only have to vote on it once. Is that correct? Yes.
Okay.
All right? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item 2, consideration and possible action, conditional use permit application CUP 2025-0318. Public hearing, a request by Stephanie Vasquez, J. Morales, Inc., applicant on behalf of Marla Gopal and, oh Lord, I need some help here. Very John, Gopal Krishna, owner, for approval of conditional use permit for the recreational center, private for-profit use within the Garden O'Day mixed use district on approximately 9.506 acres, General location, 1826 O'Day Road, Pearland, Texas. Can we have staff report now? Oh, I'm sorry, a motion and a second.
Commissioner Fortis, motion for approval.
Second.
Staff report.
Thank you, Chair. So as mentioned, the request tonight is for the conditional use permit for a recreation center private for profit in the Garden O'Day mixed use district. And the applicant is specifically proposing to subdivide the property to develop an approximately 7,500 square foot community event center on the eastern portion along O'Day Road, and a single family detached dwelling towards the rear along more of the western portion, with shared access through a flag lot along the northern property line of the residence. And the applicant noted that the event center is designed to host a variety of cultural, social, and community-oriented events. And lastly, it should be noted that the CUP is only required for the proposed event center, not for the residents. To date, staff has received 38 written comments against and 1 written comment stating neutral. And some of the concerns of the letters in opposition are in regards to traffic created by the proposed use, parking, whether it would overflow onto other streets, kind of noise from the proposed use, as well as safety, and the hours of operation for the business. And so here we get a look at some of the zoning and the surrounding zoning of the property. As mentioned, it's within the Garden O'Day mixed-use district, and that zoning is predominantly around the property with some single-family residential 1 to the northwest. And the surrounding uses, it's largely large lot residences. To the north and to the east and west is mostly those large lot residences with a mobile home park to the south, some detention for the subdivision to the northeast. And there's also one of the properties to the west is a construction company. In terms of the future land use map, the subject property is within the compact residential place type. It's looking at a history of the subject property. It was annexed into the city in 1997. Residence was then developed in 2002, which was demolished between 2016 and 2018. And the lot was platted, or the original lot was platted into 2 lots in 2013. So here's a site plan of the proposed development. As mentioned, or first off, O'Day Road is on the right-hand side of your screen. The proposed development is on the eastern half, shown by the commercial lot, with the proposed residential flag lot to the back with that shared access running along the northern portion. And the site plan also includes parking for the proposed use, as well as landscaping and some buffers as well to the adjacent residents. So here's a proposed rendering of the building. It should be noted that that long side that you're seeing, it's the main one that you're seeing, that would be facing O'Day Road, and then more of the entrance, that smaller side, would be facing the properties to the north. As looking at some of the review criteria, the proposed use is consistent with the compact residential place type, as the use is considered a secondary use of the place type. For example, the neighborhood serving commercial is one of the secondary uses. And then in terms of the thoroughfare plan, the subject property does have access to O'Day Road, which is a secondary thoroughfare to be widened. And in the previous platting, the right-of-way dedication was handled at that time. It should be noted additionally that at the time of any future platting or permitting, a traffic impact analysis will be required for the exact proposed use. And then in terms of the Unified Development Code, the site will be required to meet all requirements of the Garden O'Day Mixed Use District, and the site does have access to water and sewer. It's looking at the approval criteria for a conditional use permit. Staff found that the request met all 7 of the criteria, and specifically criterion 3 and 6 met the request with conditions added to staff's recommendation regarding buffering. So as mentioned, the proposed CUP meets the established criteria for approval of a CUP with the conditions added to staff's recommendation. And the proposed use is also consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan and the thoroughfare plan. And so therefore, staff recommends approval of the request with the following conditions. Condition 1 is that the proposed use shall be limited on the parcel to a maximum 450 feet west of the O'Day Road right-of-way, so focusing more on the eastern half. Condition 2 is that a minimum 15-foot landscape strip containing large shade trees must be provided along the northern side of the full length of the driveway within the shared access easement, so that pole portion where the driveway is running. And large shade trees shall be provided with a minimum 2-inch caliper measured at 12 inches above the root ball, with the total caliper inches equal to at least 1 inch for each 10 feet of the length of the shared access. And then condition 3 is that the required buffer along the northern property line of the proposed use, so inside the proposed commercial lot, shall include ornamental trees with a minimum 2-inch caliper measured at 12 inches above the root ball, with the total inches equal to at least 1 inch for every 15 feet of lot depth, and a continuous row of shrubs is to be provided with a minimum height of 3 feet at the time of planting. And then condition 4 is that the proposed non-residential development will be required to provide a buffer to the proposed residence to the west, so that flag lot within the boundaries of the subject land. And the buffer shall meet the requirements of section 2433 F and G of the UDC, which is the requirements for buffers within the Garden O'Day mixed use district when you have commercial next to residential. And then condition 5 is that a minimum of 50% of the facade that fronts on O'Day Road shall be of masonry, stucco, or EIFS materials. And then lastly, a minimum of 15% of the facade that fronts O'Day must be transparent. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Patrick. That takes us to applicant's presentation. Is the applicant present? Ma'am, go to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Hart, the architect for this project. And my client is a nonprofit organization called Kural Kudal, which is, its mission is to promote the knowledge and values of the ancient Tamil literature. This poet named Thira Valuvar is a classic text. He's written a classic text on ethics, morality, and the art of living. And it emphasizes core human values such as nonviolence, truthfulness, self-restraint, gratitude, and hospitality and compassion. So they want to have various art events. They want to have exercise classes in the day. They want to have weddings, receptions, just nice events. It's not a wild, some of the things I've read, they're worried about drunkenness, and that's not a tenet of their faith. It's not really a faith, it's actually it's more like a secular poetry. It's just a way of life, an art of living, a moral art of living. And so they want to have exercise and language classes, and it's for learning about Thuro Kural. And so we've designed this center in the front, and the doctor and his wife are going to have their own residence right behind it. And the wife is going to run the event center with all the classes, art classes, dance, cultural dance classes during the day. And there's plenty of parking. We're going to we're following all the rules for that in the code. And we're also going to add the stucco, or there's already stone along the bottom, but we'll add stucco on the O'Day Road side and add the windows as required. So I think it'll be a positive addition to the city of Pearland, and if anybody has any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. We can't dialogue right now, but if we have questions, we'll call you back up. All right. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this item? Okay, go to one of you take off. Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Ruben Maldonado, and I'm here tonight to voice my strong opposition to this proposed rezoning of property,
Also state your address, sir, please, for the record.
1800 O'Day Road, just 2 spots to the north there, one of those. Like many other small areas in Pearland, O'Day Road offers its residents a unique country feel and character that is central to why so many of us chose to live there. My neighbors and I firmly believe that placing an event center at this location is completely incompatible with the existing residential nature of our community. Such a development would bring serious negative impacts to the surrounding area, to surrounding families. Our primary concerns include traffic and safety hazards. The large events will significantly increase vehicle traffic, creating dangerous conditions for residents, children, pedestrians, and even animals. Example 1, just on December 14th, a man was hit while riding his horse, and the horse had to be euthanized. On February 15th of this year, a drunk driver smashed into my utility pole. These incidents show how fragile our current safety conditions already are. Adding hundreds of cars from an event venue will only magnify these risks. Noise and alcohol and environmental nuisances is our next concern. The proposed facility includes live entertainment, a wet bar, and a commercial-grade kitchen. Those weren't mentioned in anything we heard so far. Noise from daytime and late-night events would severely disrupt the peace and quiet our community values. Alcohol sales raise legitimate concerns about impaired driving, public disturbances, and disorderly conduct. Even with the use of pollution control units to mitigate the smoke and odors from the commercial kitchen, this would be a constant nuisance for us. No method of pollution control is going to be 100% effective. Additionally, grease traps and food waste may attract rodents and other animals, wildlife to our area. Impact on property values. Facilities that serve alcohol and host large gatherings are known to negatively impact nearby property values due to traffic congestion, noise, and safety concerns. And this is a for-profit event center. They are going to rent it out. It's not just a cultural and event center. They can say that, but regardless of how this project is presented today, we must consider its future impact. What does this property look like in 5, 10, 15 years? The applicant's own materials references phase 2, indicating further expansion is part of the plan. Approving this rezoning now sets a precedent that opens the door to even more commercial development, gradually transforming our quiet and residential neighborhood. I urge each of you to consider how you would feel if such a facility were placed next to your own home. Approving this conditional use permit would not only harm our community today, it would set a dangerous precedent for further commercial encroachment into established residential areas. That's it.
Thank you. Before you leave, get that. Never mind. Katja's going to get you. Okay. Can I have Ruben Maldonado? Oh, that was you? Okay. We already got the page. Okay. Tama, C-H-U-N-N. Chun? Okay. Can we have a timer set? You have 3 minutes. Can somebody set a timer? So they'll know. State your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Tama, T-A-M-A, Chun, C-H-U-N-N. I do not live in Pearland. I live in Houston. My address is 9902 Warwana, Houston, Texas, 77080. However, my children and my grandchildren live on O'Day Road, and I come over here continuously to spend time with them and also to babysit them. So I'm here a lot. And I remember when my son and his wife moved out here to O'Day Road and bought almost 5 acres, a similar situation on the other side of the mobile home park, just south of this property. And, they bought it for the peace and tranquility, for the trees, for the laid back rural feel, and sedentary, so not sedentary, but relaxed lifestyle. And they've already endured a lot of noise from the property just north of them, the mobile home park, on a regular, ongoing basis. So now this will be just one more incident further north. I'm seeing there's some confusion. Everything says that this is for profit, and yet the architect referred to nonprofit like it was a nonprofit activity. There may be nonprofit activity within the venue, or the lady is associated with a nonprofit. I've worked for nonprofits, so I understand how that works. But the fact that they are going to be not just using it for personal use or use related to just their strict nonprofit organization, and yet renting it out for other uses, already allows them to be lax in who accesses it. Even if they're strict, you can't control everyone who will come to that property. You can't control every event that will happen on that property. You're going to have a wet bar, a live bar. They're asking for a license, I understand. And they're going to have live music. And I don't know, I haven't seen a single word about what their hours are planned to be, if there's any restriction. I don't see the staff putting any restrictions on it, so I have concerns in that area. I have concerns that the staff has kind of approved this without looking at this as all of the other mitigating things besides, we'll put up some trees and plants. We have a commercial building in the Heights. It's surrounded by businesses and residences. And, so I understand exactly the situation. I also understand that it's a boon for the city council and for the city because it's extra taxes. But at the same time, like the gentleman before me said, this impacts the situation going forward. This is going to become a domino effect. This property apparently is going to be added to, and there's nothing in the plans that talks about what that's going to look like. So there's quite a few concerns, and you should listen to the residences, not just new arrivals.
Okay, thank you. Wayman Chun. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Wayman Chun. The lady who just spoke is my wife, Tama. We live at 9902 Warwana Road in Houston, Texas. And our family lives right next door to where this new event center is going to be. And I know they're very unhappy about it. It's pretty peaceful there, except for the place on the side of them that is already giving them grief, because late at night there's a lot of shouting and revelry going on sometimes, and they're very concerned that this new event center is going to pose the same kind of problems that the previous speakers talked about, and I'm concerned about it too. Because, this is my family who lives there. Our children and our grandchildren live there. And, they get up and go to school in the morning, and their parents, they have jobs, they have to work, they have to get a good night's sleep at night. They don't need things keeping them awake. And I know it sounds good, the plans that we hear about what's going to happen with that property. But, those plans can change. And then what do they do when they do change? Because I don't know of anything that they can do if they change their mind about who they're going to lease, the event center to, when they're not using it for their nonprofit purposes. And when you get in a situation where you need money because the thing's not renting, you're going to be a whole lot more lax in who you rent it to. And anyway, so those are my concerns, and I think those are the concerns of the property owners who live there, and want to keep the place kind of peaceful and rural looking, and just a decent place to live. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think it might be Michael Cravey. Cravey.
Somebody did just get up and leave.
Is it Mabel? Okay, I'll go with that. Name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Mabel Cravey, and I live at 1920 O'Day Road, 2 lots away from where this building's gonna be. I came here to protest the construction of a gas station about a year ago, but this time it hits a lot closer to home, quite literally. When my mom first told me about the construction plans of the event center next to our house, my first thought was no. Why in the world would you put an event center in a place where people live, where my family lives, where I live? I don't think this is a safe and smart decision. First of all, this place will have a bar, and people will drink, and that doesn't necessarily mean that people will get drunk, but there's always a possibility. And just 300 feet away from where my family is going to be living and sleeping and playing and just living our normal lives, there are going to be people who are partying and not necessarily being safe. And what happens when loud music plays all night? My 1-year-old sister Nora sleeps in the front bedroom, and I don't think it's fair to her or to us to keep us up all night over a party. Also, when I go to school currently, there's always like a 2-minute wait to get out of our driveway because of all the traffic on O'Day Road. And this building's only going to increase that traffic. So I'm not really excited to see what will happen when more and more people start coming down our road. And last year there was an accident with that horse, so I do not want accidents happening on our road, in front of our house, by our house, in our ditch. So I really hope that you all can see that this is not a good location for the event center, and that you do not put the safety and comfort of my family in jeopardy. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea Cravey.
Hello, my name is Andrea Cravey. I live at 1920 O'Day Road. Again, I live at 1920 O'Day Road. I live 2 lots over from where this event center is projected to go. I live there with my husband and my 3 children, and we've lived there for over 10 years. I'm interested in more information, like many of the other people have said, about what's expected of this event center, what it holds for our community. What size of events are going to be held? How much parking do they have planned? What happens when they overbook? Is it open every day? Is it open every night? But with the limited information that I have been given, I don't want it. I'm not against event centers, but I am against an event center that is planning to host live music, a bar, and large-scale events in a place where people live, where I live with my family and our neighbors live with their families. O'Day Road is a narrow road, 1 lane, either direction, and no shoulders. It has poor lighting, deep ditches, and no sidewalks. It is a difficult and unforgiving road for anyone. I'd be frightened to see what would happen to people after being served alcohol and trying to navigate O'Day Road, especially at night. Hickory Slough is a drainage waterway that runs through Pearland. Specifically, it runs the length of our property and turns in front of our property along O'Day Road. 2 lots over from our home, Hickory Slough crosses O'Day Road and continues towards Hatfield Drive, or Hatfield Road. Where the slough crosses is a small bridge. The driveway closest to this bridge is the projected site of this event center. I don't know what they're planning to do about the driveway, and I'm not an engineer, but it seems like it would be a difficult thing to move the slough and the bridge, but not so difficult to move a site of an event that has an event center that has yet to be built. This is not a good location. If you guys remember the hit and run accident involving a civilian and the horse last year, that is this spot. This is the bridge I'm talking about. I didn't see the accident, but we saw the commotion and the gunshots putting that horse down because of how close it is to where we live. My speculation is that there was not enough room for 1 car and a horse, or 2 cars and a horse passing over that bridge. So imagine if a person is walking over this bridge at night or day to get to this event center. It's not a good location. Lastly, I have a petition signed by nearly 100 people that agree that this is not a good location for this event center and request to not rezone this property address. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Alex Gravy, please.
Good evening. My name's Alex Cravey. I also reside at 1920 O'Day Road. My concerns are similar to my neighbors as far as noise pollution, actual pollution, litter. There's national and local studies that show when an event center like this is placed in a residential neighborhood, it increases alcohol-related events, it increases traffic and littering. We don't want any of that in our neighborhood. We would like our neighborhood to remain calm and as rural as possible. Excuse me. Also, there's nothing there about all the flat work and the drainage into Hickory Slough. Hickory Slough is already undercut where it turns under the bridge there. The foundation is falling apart. I know that's not y'all's responsibility, it's Brazoria's, but that will impact that. And again, we sleep 300 feet away from this place, and it's nothing against the event center nor the owners. We just don't want it in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Robert Serrano. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, good evening. Well, my English is not so good, but I'm going to try to talk as perfect as I can. Well, I'm actually right next to it. I'm the neighbor right next to the building that's going to be facing right to my house. Exactly right.
Name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 1814 O'Day Road. And like I said, that building is going to be facing right next to my house. My family and me, we moved there 13 years ago. We used to live in Houston. Before we moved, we looked and looked around the whole area of Houston. And we decided to move over to Brazoria. Why? Because of the schools and the areas that we decided to move. You cannot imagine how hard it was to buy this property. To Mr. Salinas, he's right here, and Mrs. Salinas. As we argue back and forth about the price here and there, but we finally got it, thank God, and thank them. And now we've been there for 13 years, and we've been living comfortable. And now just imagine that building getting built right beside my house with my kids. My kids are growing. I already got one in college. There's one in high school, there's one in middle school. And I just can't imagine. I mean, those events, whatever kind of events, I'm not against if they build a residence. That would be wonderful. But if they build that building, it's over. It's not the right place there's plenty of spaces over 518 Road on Broadway that could be built. But I mean, that's like all my neighbors. They all said what there has to be said, and I'm sorry, but I'm just nervous and I'm angry about what they're trying to do on a residence place that it's calm and peaceful. But just stop and think about our children. That's not the right place to do it. Thank you.
All right, that's all the cards I have. Now, I do have a petition here that's been signed, and I counted 28 signatures. Pardon? Give it to Jennifer. Okay, that brings us to still persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against this item? I'm asking one more time. Anyone which, hang on, we'll dialogue with you in just a second. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this? Okay, all right, you're gonna have to, after you get through talking, get a green card and fill it out. Okay.
My name is Jessica Maldonado, and I live at 1800 O'Day Road with my husband Ruben that spoke first and our 2 children. I do also agree with everything that everyone has to say, but I also don't agree with the way that the information was given to us. The small, I understand, is probably the minimum size it has to be, but it was basically put behind a bridge where not many people could see. And notices were not sent out to everyone. I live 2 houses down, and I didn't receive a notice, but my mom that lives 3 houses down did. So I feel like, I'm getting nervous, sorry. I feel like there wasn't proper notification to the residents. Just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you. Don't forget to fill out a green form. It's on the outside there and in the lobby. Okay, one more time. Is anyone wishing to speak for or against? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move it on to this young man. All right, take the podium. Your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Emmanuel Serrano. I live in 1814 O'Day Road. I disagree with this because I live right next to it, and it sounds very bad idea to me. Thank you.
All right. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing no motion, we're going to move on to staff and commission's questions. So, Trey, do you want to kick it off?
First of all, I appreciate everyone coming to speak on the issue, we did listen. I appreciate that. I know there's been some talk about maybe traffic on the roadway, and I'm not taking light of the situation, but if there can't be one horse, I think a horse in a vehicle, then how is it going to support anything else? I'm not taking light of that. It wasn't funny at all, but only in Texas, right? I do worry about some of your concerns when the road is eventually widened, and the use plan may actually come into effect. So just keep that in mind. Other than that, that's all I had.
I just want to ask the city, the road it's planning to expand it, correct? And do we know when that time frame is?
There's no timeline, but yes, it's intended to be expanded.
I have a question. So I noticed that there's a 4-inch force main that's serving the street. Would they not be required to upgrade the sanitary to the size that could serve this property? And
Yes,
that
so
looks
that
like
was-
that would go about a mile or two down the road.
Correct. So that's one of the comments we had during the pre-development with them, or possible extension of sewer.
Yeah, that's very expensive. There's a few concerns that I have. One is an event center for its current proposed use is one thing, but not knowing what it can turn in once we're voting for the dirt. We're not voting for the person that's opening the business. And when we vote for the dirt like that, there are concerns that we have to consider. One, the neighbors. Obviously, the roadway is probably not sufficient width. Their sanitary sewer is not sufficient at this point. And it's in the floodplain. It's a very tough development to make work. So I don't know that I'd feel comfortable voting the dirt to be an event center that could be sold off and used for any other use, although I really appreciate what the current applicant is trying to promote. I think it's a wonderful thing, but I don't think this is the exact spot for for an event center in general, just because once we vote the dirt, whoever owns this in the future, we just don't know how they're going to utilize this land. And I just can't do that to the neighbors. So, I think that's it.
As I'm looking at the future use plan, the future use plan of this parcel, the future use of this parcel is compact residential. Understand right now it's mixed use, so that's why we have the CUP. But I'm having difficulty grasping of why Event Center was even able to be brought to the table when the future use was compact residential. So I understand right now what it's zoned at, but if we would approve this on the CUP, what would that do to the future use of the compact resident? So Vance, if you or the staff could help me with that, that's kind of a struggle that I'm having internal right now.
Good evening, everyone, Commissioner and Chair. Thanks for the question. I would say the future land use plan has that designated as compact residential, and within our comprehensive plan, there are primary and secondary uses listed. One of the secondary uses listed in the comprehensive plan under compact residential is neighborhood servicing commercial, and staff allowed this request to fall under that. And honestly, part of that was with the knowledge that it would come to the applicant to kind of prove up the event center type for the voting body. And one item just to back up to Commissioner Hendrick's comments. So it is a conditional use permit, just as far as we're not actually zoning the dirt. So this would be specific to an event center, and then anything else would have to fall under regular zoning. But yeah, so under the use types and the future land use plan is a secondary category, and neighborhood servicing commercial is in there.
Okay, thank you, Vance. I don't have any further comments.
Thank you again, everybody, for being here tonight. I know it takes a lot of courage to stand up there. I've stood up in other cities before, and it's not fun. So I appreciate the efforts of everybody coming out, spending their time day after a holiday to come out here and discuss this, as well as the applicant. I can appreciate what the applicant has stated is the goal and the mission of this nonprofit. And nonprofit doesn't mean you necessarily don't make money. It just means the corporation itself doesn't distribute profits a certain way and or generate. But there's people that still make income with a nonprofit. Just want to be clear about that. But more importantly, I do have a zoning question, and Patrick, you always give a great presentation. What I'm wondering is, when I was here when we created the Garden O'Day mixed use district, what I recall, and I'm old and I forget things, but what I recall is that the uses that were going to be allowed in the Garden O'Day mixed use district were uses that were already in place within that district, but maybe they wanted them somewhere else. Meaning, if a machine shop had existed there prior or when we put the regulations in place, I want to say it was 2006 to 2008 in that time frame. Then if somebody else wanted to put a machine shop 10 blocks away, or if the machine shop was on Garden, maybe they wanted to, another one wanted to open on O'Day, that was a use that could be, that we could reach to easily. That being said, this is a CUP for an event center. Was that, I don't recall that being part of the original thinking, although to me, I want businesses here, I want them to succeed, but we also need to make sure they're in the right location. So all that said, to ask you, am I correct in all that thinking?
Yes, in part, yeah. So the kind of Garden O'Day mixed use is kind of an interest. It's Garden and O'Day are interesting roads because they have a mixture of commercial and residential. You'll see a section where there's several warehouses and there's a home. And one of those aspects that you are getting to is there is a specific conditional use permit that's applied to, let's say you have like a warehouse. That's not typically something you would see next to a home. So like if for this property, and to look at an example, this property wouldn't be allowed to do like a warehouse or one of those previous uses, but you may have some that are in another section of Garden and O'Day that, like when we saw a CUP probably 2 or 3 years back that was for an auto repair. And it had been used for an auto repair for probably 30, 40 years. And then someone else wanted to come in and they needed a CUP to do that. So it kind of gets to that, but there are uses that are certain commercial uses that are permitted by right in the zoning district. They're typically, it's definitely less intense than your general commercial or your general business, what you see along major corridors, but like a medical office or an office is a permitted use within Garden O'Day, a barber or beauty salon. It's typically a lot less intense. So like a restaurant, that requires a conditional use permit because that's something that's more intense than an office. This use, more intense. That's why it needs a closer look to see if it's right for the area. But yeah, so you're in part right, but it's specific almost to, can the existing uses be continued to go on their existing property? It typically may not allow for it to move to a different property. It's saying, almost looking at it as an existing nonconformity. It allows for that to potentially continue because it had been used for many years as that.
Very well, thank you. Thank you for that. The second question I have for you, and I was going to go somewhere else. Let me just ask this one real quick. Most of those conditions that were placed on this, that if we were to vote, do we want the conditions that staff recommended? Are a lot of those conditions already rules within the UDC, or is this each one of those in addition to the current rules?
Yeah, so another thing about Garden O'Day is because of the nature of how you may have an existing warehouse building, they may have residential, the buffering requirements, whenever the UDC or the zoning district was added, they're a little more specific than other areas because it gets into whoever was the first use. And so how we read in other sections, like Chapter 4 talks about you either do a 25-foot buffer or a 30-foot buffer that requires either a wall and landscaping or just a vegetative screen that's dense. This section provides different options, and it's because of the nature of how it either says you do a masonry wall or you do landscaping. And so with staff's conditions, we were trying to create the buffer that you would see in other areas so that this area is not, oh, you'll do lesser buffering. No, we'll do the same buffering that everywhere else has, because they're going to do a new use. So the large shade tree requirement and the ornamental trees and that vegetative screen, that's going above what this zoning district requires. And we're trying to do what other zoning districts. So if you were a general commercial next to a residence, you'd be required to provide that buffer. So that's where those requirements are coming from.
I appreciate that explanation, and it makes sense. Thank you. There was one comment about notification, and I do want to explain for the group that the city has a map. They call it a 200-foot abutters map. If you're within 200 feet of the property, you should be notified. And I apologize because somebody said a property that's farther away was notified, but they weren't. So I apologize for that. Who knows if it's slow mail or what the case is, but I do know the city follows the regulations, and they even include the names and addresses here. I'm sorry, I can't dialogue with you. That's up to you.
Ma'am, if you're going to talk, you have to go up there.
Okay. The last thing I had a comment on is that we as a board cannot, there's a couple of things that we really don't take into consideration as much as I think the general public would like us to. Some of that is engineering. Some of them are great points. The Commissioner Hendricks brought up that, this force main is a very expensive item. Want to make sure that the applicant's aware of the cost that's associated there. It may make the business decision a negative at that point. So I'm glad you brought that up, and with your expertise, it's needed. I also think that what she brought up earlier, zoning the dirt, it's a common phrase that we say here, and what we mean by that is if we grant this use to this applicant, who then, what Ms. Jennifer said, if they sell the property, some of the controls that they said that they had are going to be gone. So as we vote, we can't vote necessarily that this is a wonderful cultural use for the arts, etc. We have to vote it knowing that it's wide open and some of the things that you all mentioned may be valid at that point. They may argue that no, it's not going to be that under our ownership. But again, in the future, that's not in our control. And if we vote, we are voting the dirt and the use itself, even through this CUP, a conditional use permit, even through that process. So just want to say that I think an event center is a wonderful thing to have. Every town should have one. I don't know that this is the right location. And I think the residents showing up, although a lot of them were from one household, I get that. But I don't know if it's the right area. And the fact that there's not 2 or 3 other ones that we could point to in the Garden O'Day mixed use district, I don't know that I can get there, so I don't think I'm going to vote for.
Okay. Well, number one, I want to make it perfectly clear to everybody out there, we're not zoning the dirt. The dirt's already zoned. All we're voting on is a conditional use permit. Are we going to allow this operation to go in, or this item to go in to this area? It's set up that it is a use that is allowed, but it's got to go through a process. And it's got to come to P&Z, then it has to go to City Council. Can we have the applicant go to the stand, please? Okay, state your name and address again, please.
I'm Kathleen Hart, and I grew up in Pearland, but I live in Clear Lake, 3219 Almond Creek Drive, Houston.
Yes, ma'am. There's been some concerns about the nonprofit and the for-profit that is. Can you explain that a little bit better to us?
I have believed that it's a nonprofit organization called the Kuro Kadal, but I just know that the Gopal, this has been the Gopal's dream for a long time. Dr. Gopal is a geriatric physician, and originally he's going to build his house there. He's going to sell his big house in Bay Oaks, and he's building a beautiful country-style dream home right behind this, so he doesn't want loud music here either. They believe in self-restraint and hospitality and compassion. So they looked and looked for land, and they wanted to build like a cul-de-sac with some of their other doctor friends who all live together. That was their idea. But this land, since it's low-lying, they couldn't build all that. So they could only build two things. And his wife is she's just passionate about this Kuro Kadal Foundation that she started. And she's got donors wanting to build this thing. They want to have their exercise class and their dance class and language classes to keep their culture alive. They came from Pakistan, but they are of the Tamil language. And anyway, they don't want to have anything wild. They wanted to have a bar to serve coffee during the daytime meetings and things, and then they'll have champagne toast at their daughter's weddings. It's not a party place at all. So I just want y'all to know that's what the design intent was from the get-go, and the family is going to be living right behind it. So it's not going to be, it'll be beautiful and a wonderful place for the community.
Okay, it says on the petition, it says private and for profit. So you're saying that it's, I mean, that's confusing to me too.
It is, and I called her today to try to find out, because it said everything that we learned as their architect said it was a nonprofit organization. So I think in order to keep it going, maybe they'd have to rent it out for other, baby showers, gender reveal parties during the day, weddings, but they wouldn't tolerate any kind of big, wild, loud parties. It's going to be fully insulated, the roof, 38.
Please give her the respect, please. She did y'all. Right, go ahead, ma'am.
The place is going to be insulated, and every event that you have, if it's over a certain number of people, you've got to have security people. If people are drunk, they can make sure that they get an Uber home. I mean, there's security guards required for a certain
Okay,
size
what are
event.
the hours of operation?
I don't have the hours of operation. Dr. Gopal and Mrs. Gopal told us that it's daytime exercise, dance, and language classes, and then they didn't tell me the times in the evening. It's just, I would assume Friday night and Saturday night weddings, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay, another thing, it's been spoke about the sewer line that goes down through there. Are you aware of that?
Yes, and we told them it was going to be very expensive. And so, yeah, they know about that.
Okay, all right, thank you, ma'am.
Can I clarify one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to get an echo. I think the public hearing notice says for a recreation center, then in parentheses, private, comma, for profit, close parentheses. I believe that is actually the zoning designation allowable or that they're applying for. It's not a recreation center public as if the school or the city wanted to do something. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the definition is an indoor business establishment used for recreation and social activities. Thus, the CUP definition is correct.
Thank you for that clarification. You through? All right. One of the things that I want everybody to understand, we did a comprehensive plan and we had public input. We had several the city puts out a mass email and notification and stuff, and we had it over at the rec center, and we went through this exercise about a year ago. It was about a year ago. We went through all of that, and what it's for is to give everybody that is that's a citizen of Pearland to come in there and look on the maps that we have available of what you would like to see done in certain places. And you know, the bad thing about it is you know, we've even had places that people wanted to you know, that we've designated for apartments, and that's the most hated thing in Pearland there is apartments. But there was an area that people sit there and said that you know, we can see multifamily going in here. What I noticed, once it goes into that area, it's okay as long as it's not in my backyard. And that's kind of what I'm getting at now. This has been set up, and staff has done a really good job about trying to do things, and they have to meet a ton of regulations and stuff to even put this in. But it comes up to one thing, you know, people said we're okay with doing this, but now I'm hearing not in my backyard. And, you know, I know that it's not what y'all want to hear, and I'm in the minority here, but you know, and I know I'm not going to get any applause, so, but the, you know, it's just one of those things that to me, I think, you know, the property owner has certain rights, and we can't look, we think about what's going to happen in 10 years. You know, but if you'd never build anything if we worried about what's going to happen in 10 years. I mean, you know, in 10 years, the people that live next door or down the street or whatever that have 5 acres, they might want to do something different with their property too for income or for whatever. I mean, build a business down there. You know, the way I look at it is I mean, I think it's large, and I'm not trying to sit there and say that I disregard what the neighbors have to say. I think having 100 people on a petition is really kind of is probably going to be a factor when it goes before city council. But I just want y'all to know, I mean, right now y'all have a chance to have input about what's going to go in. You know, I'd like to see that, and I'd like to have seen where the applicant had met with the residents out there and try to talk to y'all and qualm some of y'all's inhibitions about something like this going in. But that didn't happen. It may happen in the future, but I'm just telling y'all that this isn't something that's taken lightly. It's something that we put out there for the public to look at. We ask for input from the public before we even approve a comprehensive plan. We try to take all their ideas and stuff into consideration, and they put it on a map, and we go through several exercises of trying to get it where we want it. And but it's like I said, it's a positive thing till not in my backyard. So I'm gonna shut up now. And but anybody else got anything? Staff, anybody? All right, then I'm gonna call for the vote. Yes. Do we want to amend the motion about the conditions and stuff?
I was the one that called for the motion to approve, so for procedural reasons, I will ask for the conditions to be considered as part of the motion to approve. Did I say that correctly? Might want to put that on.
I second that.
Okay, we have the amended motion to vote on. All those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. 1 to 5. Fails. All right, that goes to, we move to the next item, which is consideration and possible action, conditional use permit applicant CUP 2025-0334. Yeah, if y'all want to go ahead and leave, y'all don't have to stick here for this. Gets boring. It goes before city council. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Consideration and possible action, conditional use application, permit application, CUP 2025-0334, public hearing, a request by Barbara Rodriguez, applicant on behalf of Michelle Castaneda, owner, for approval of conditional use permit, CUP, for accessory dwelling unit use within the suburban residential -15, SR15 district on approximately 0.89 acres of land. General location, 3637 Wingtail Way, Pearland, Texas. Can I have a motion and a second to approve?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner
Second.
Henrik, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. That takes us to staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight, as was indicated on the previous slide, is a request for a conditional use permit to allow for the renovation and addition to an accessory dwelling unit within the footprint of an already existing accessory structure on the property located at 3637 Wingtail. This property has a single-family residence as well as an attached garage and then an accessory structure located on the site. The accessory structure is approximately 1,107-ish square feet. My staff report has the exact number. With an existing ADU, which was present before the Unified Development Code was put in place, of 388 square feet, which leaves approximately 714 square feet of garage space. What they're proposing is to basically take the 2-car garage and reduce it to a 1-car garage, leaving the adequate parking for the site still available in driveway space on the property, but converting an additional 300 or so square feet of that into dwelling unit for the ADU, which already exists on the site, creating 731 square feet of ADU space. So basically they're taking a third of, it is currently 1/3 ADU, 2/3 garage. It would become 2/3 ADU, 1/3 garage. We did receive one phone call from a neighbor that was an adjacent property owner who was requesting additional information on it. They said that they had no issue with it. They just wanted to know what the sign in the yard was referring to. Other than that, we received no public comment. The property is zoned that SR15, which is the suburban residential 15, and is surrounded on all sides by the same. The future land use map identifies this space as established residential estate. This established residential estate future land use is intended for single-family detached homes, agricultural land, and local food production. But if you read the character and intent of this, it identifies that it is to maintain the already constructed sites, which are not likely to change in scale, and will maintain the rural character, scale, and scenic value of the surrounding area. The history of this site is that the residential structure, the primary structure of this site, was constructed in 1975. It was annexed into the city in 1997, where it was initially zoned as SD. It was then rezoned by a city-initiated rezoning in 1999 to R1. The accessory structure was also constructed in 1999. we were not able to locate the permit records for exactly the dates where this started and stopped construction to see where it fell compared to that March 99 date. In July of 2001's a hard date to say for me here, during citizen comment during a city council meeting unrelated to a public hearing, so just citizens coming in to speak about general issues, the owner discussed water conditions of the site and indicated at that time that there were 2 water meters present at 3637 Wingtail Way, which leads to the conclusion that there was an ADU on the site at that time. Again, this is a bit of a jump to a conclusion. However, with the 2 units and the citizen comment from that July 2001 meeting, there were 2 water meters present at the site. This is the Google Street View, so it is a little bit dated. However, the top picture there shows the primary structure. You can see Meadow Lane on the right-hand side of that picture, and then Wingtail is what you're standing on if you were the one taking this photo. With the little red arrow, you can't actually see the accessory structure besides the ridge of that hipped roof there, but you can see it behind what looks to be an RV parked in the driveway. And then the second photo there is showing the accessory structure in its current condition. So the first line on your left, closer to not covering the truck, that is where the current ADU approximately lies. And then if you see the second line, which goes through the truck, that would be where the ADU on the inside would be proposed. So they're expanding within the same footprint. The outside of the structure will not change. The driveway will not change. This is the site plan, or a portion of the survey where I've clipped it out, showing circled in red the structure which they're proposing the work within the structure. And then this is the floor plans, the current floor plan with the only 2 colors there. In blue, you can see where they have currently a studio style ADU where there's a shower in the top right corner of the blue. They're removing the shower from that, making it a powder room, and then moving the full bath into the pink area, which is the center portion there. This is going from a studio to a single bedroom dwelling unit. As far as the criteria go, the comprehensive plan identifies this as the established residential estate, which is intended for that single family, as I indicated previously, with the detached single family homes and agricultural land. However, the intent, again, is to maintain the existing character of the site, with the proposed expansion not increasing the footprint, nor adding additional bedrooms to this besides the single bedroom, which goes from a studio space to a single bedroom. While yes, someone could be sleeping in the living room space of this dwelling unit, it is unlikely to increase the density or change the character of this site from its current condition. It is in line with the thoroughfare plan, as both Wingtail Way and Meadow Lane are both local streets, and the expansion is fully within the existing structure, not an expansion of additional floor space on the lot. It does have access to water and sewer, and as indicated, it did have 2 water meters. So again, on this one, you can see that it is in line with all of the criteria which are found in 2234A of our Unified Development Code, except potentially the first, which is that consistency with the future land use plan identified as the existing established estate residential. With that, staff finds that the accessory dwelling unit meets most of the established criteria, with the exception of that future land use map, and the proposed expansion of the ADU is not changing the existing character of the surrounding residential neighborhood and is supporting the character of the primary use of the property. And so staff recommends approval with the following condition. As has been past practice with these accessory dwelling units, the condition is that the CUP shall only be allowed for to be occupied by a person who is related to the person who occupies the primary dwelling or the subject property. And that ends staff report.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? All right, you have a presentation? Okay, you here for questions? Okay. The That moves us on to persons wishing to speak for or against. Seeing no movement, going to ask one more time, anyone wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we're going to move on to staff and commissioners discussion. Jennifer, do you want to kick it off?
Actually, I'm quite in support of adding ADUs, especially if it's for the use of a relative. I can totally see the need for that, being that taxes are so high and a lot of seniors are being displaced out of, I'm not saying that's what this is for, but I see a lot of seniors being displaced out of their homes, and this is just the only other alternative for a lot of families, so I'm definitely in support of it.
As a person that's not usually in a acceptance of ADU, this ADU already exists, and basically they're just wanting to make it more comfortable for the family that lives there. And I'll go on record, I would not oppose this.
Question for staff. When I looked at those pictures, and this, you're probably better to answer this. Thank you. The garage building itself, is that attached? I'm looking at that roof. It looks like the roof is attached.
So there's an attached garage, which is just north, there you go. An attached garage there, which is a portion of the primary structure, and then a detached accessory structure, which is the portion that you're seeing circled or rectangled, I guess, in red.
That they are wanting to then combine into one building, correct?
No, the existing, so there's an attached garage. So there's an attached garage with the primary structure. So there's a space for 2 vehicles to park inside the primary structure. And then there's an accessory structure, which is not attached. So if you go back to the site plan real quick, you can see just north of the red rectangle there, that portion is the attached garage, which is a portion of the primary structure. What they're discussing is this detached accessory structure just south on this drawing. So there's currently garage space, enclosed garage space for 4 vehicles, 2 that are primary and 2 that are on the accessory structure. They would be removing 1 enclosed parking space with this expansion, but there is plenty of driveway space, and there's not a requirement to be enclosed garage space for parking requirements.
In the red, you're stating. Okay, so what I understand is, let's say this were approved by us, by council, they're going to still maintain a 2-car garage that's attached, and then they would have the ADU and 1 garage space in that building that's detached, maybe with a breezeway or whatever that is in the middle.
Correct, plus additional driveway spaces.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for the city. So in reading the packet, it says that there's no record from 1999 when the new structure was built. What does that mean? Does that mean they built this without getting permits?
It does not, because it's a residential structure. It just means that we aren't able to put our hands on it in the historic software, et cetera.
Okay. So, and then remind me, in the past, when we do this, don't we add stipulations that it has to be a family member that moves into it? It can't be a lease. So they're moving this from a studio space into a single bedroom unit, correct?
Correct. They are changing the space from a studio to, which essentially just means that there isn't a designated bedroom, living room designation. they're proposing that there is now going to be a bedroom versus living room designation, a wall. The staff recommended condition is related to that family member stipulation that is typical of ADUs that have been presented previously.
Okay, and have we asked them that question? Do they know that?
Would be a question.
Ma'am, can you go to the podium? State your name and address for the record.
Michelle Castaneda, 3637 Wingtail Way. So that is an additional, it'll be for my parents, actually. They'll be staying there with us. So it'll just be for a family member.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ma'am, can you go back to the podium, please? Get your steps in. Does it have a full operating kitchen as of now?
Yes.
Okay, so what has been used up until now is like an efficiency apartment for a family member?
Family member, yes.
Okay. So we don't have any record of this ever being built. Is that correct with staff? You've already said no. Okay. You just, so it's non-conforming dwelling right now, correct? All right. Now, what are the intentions? Is this strictly intentions of a parent for right now, or what are your intentions when when you don't have a family member in it?
My intentions for later, as me and my husband get older, then we'll be there. My kids will take over the other part of the house. Hopefully, maybe. But that's it.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Okay. I understand. And you know, we're on a personal level. My mother lives behind my sister now in an ADU. But Commissioner Hendricks has always been a strong advocate for this. You know, it just gets into how do you determine later on if you're going to keep that area occupied and stuff. You know, who's living in it then? You know, now the only thing is whether we like it or not, this thing was already in existence with a full kitchen. The only thing y'all didn't have is a bedroom, and it looks like you're just trying to make somebody more comfortable by adding a bedroom and a bathroom and a walk-in closet. You know, but it's a hard one. I mean, I feel like the majority of city council will probably would probably lean toward passing this. I know that we have one city councilman who would be against it, and but you know, this is a hard one, mainly because it's already existing. If it was new, I'm not so sure I'd be for it, but this is existing and just making another bedroom and stuff. The only thing that concerns me is later on. You know, that's where we get into, but we can't really go what's going to happen years from now. I mean, we'd like to be able to look into the future and be able to figure this out, but it's just not going to happen. And no more than it was on the last item where we were talking about if that building was to be approved and such that we could see into the future and see what's going to hold for that area over there. But I thank y'all, and I thank for staff. I think the recommendations that staff's put out is very well thought out, and I think it's the only way that it probably will pass. Okay, we've got one more.
If I may, specific to the documentation issue, because the timing of exactly when this was built in the first place is a little unclear relative to when this area was annexed into the city, it's possible that this was actually built before this area was annexed into the city, and it may have been permitted by the county. So it's possible we never had permits for it. And even if we did, if it was built after it was permitted, we've had multiple software system changes since 1999. And so there's probably a lot of documents that the city had at one time that have been lost because of conversions of information from one system to another. And so that may be something worth considering as well in light of the timing of all of this and the length of time that it's existed.
Okay, thank you.
Not only that, the city did have a condition that I think we're supposed to vote on with condition that it can only be a relative, somebody that's related. So that kind of squashes anybody else coming in.
Chairman. Just my point, ma'am, would you go back to the podium? Okay, when this property was purchased, was the dwelling already there? The ADU?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, for the record, I'd ask if the ADU was present when they purchased the property, and she answered and affirmed. With that, I would want to amend the motion with another condition, and that would be that based approved during the building permit and the building, that all codes be brought up to date in that ADU. Because last thing I'd want to do is for something not to be a code, they build, they inhabit it, there's a fire or something else, and then we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say, we could have kept that from happening.
Is that, just for clarification, is that something that's already going to take place?
That has to be brought up to code regardless.
So the structure would have to come up to code when it comes to fire alarm or smoke detector, I should say, better said. However, I mean, the existing items that's not going to be added would just be existing. It would come down to the scope. I don't know the exact scope as far as moving electrical and plumbing and all those items, but all that would have to meet current code.
Okay.
I do have one comment for the city staff, if somebody knows this perhaps. I think the state legislature has made some changes regarding ADUs, and I'm wondering how, I don't think Pearland's affected yet. I think it's for population. You're already shaking your head. Thank you.
Specific to ADUs, cities over 150,000 population are essentially preempted from regulating addition of ADUs. We are still under 150,000, so Pearland is not yet included in that bracketed legislation.
So within the next foreseeable few years, the city of Pearland will not be able to regulate these ADUs.
Unless the law changes before we hit 150,000 people, that is the current law.
I think we're pretty darn close. I don't think people want to count at this point because there's some rules that might take effect. But understand, so if I'm not mistaken, what I'm hearing is the state legislature feels that towns of a certain size, these things should be allowed, and the cities shouldn't be making rules et cetera, okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, all right. We do need to consider the condition, so.
All right, Trey, do you, no, Jennifer, you made the motion. Do you want to update your motion?
So I approve to make the amend with the conditional approval.
Just to clarify, you're amending to add the staff recommended conditions, the additional condition from the commissioner, or?
No, just the staff recommended condition.
Thank you.
Was it me? I approve the motion and second it.
All right, anybody else got anything to say? All right, let's call for the vote. All those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed? 4-1. 5-1, I'm sorry. All right, that leads us to consideration of possible action, conditional use permit application CUP 2025-0343, public hearing, a request by Grand Development LLC, applicant and owner for approval of conditional use permit CUP for dwelling, 2-family use within the Old Town mixed use district to accommodate 4 2-family dwelling units on 4 separate platted lots totaling 0.424 acres of land. General location 2523, 2525, 2527, 2529, 2531, Grand Boulevard, Pearland, Texas. All right, can I have staff report?
Motion to
All right,
approve.
we need a motion to approve. In a second.
It's a motion to make.
You made a motion? Trey made a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, staff report.
Sorry for the addresses. There's a lot of addresses there. So the summary of the request, the applicant's proposing to develop 4 2-family residential buildings, which would total 8 units overall on 4 adjacent lots. So a 2 duplex or 2-family for each lot, with each lot measuring 37 feet wide by 125 feet deep. And each residential building will be identical with an approximate total area of 2,322 square feet and will be situated on an individual lot, as mentioned. And the units will be designed for separate occupancy and will feature an attached garage that are accessed from Grand Boulevard. And so to date, staff has received 2 written comments against the request. And some of the concerns were in regards to parking concerns, specifically parking kind of going out into Grand Boulevard. And then additionally, impact on walkability for the area with those driveways coming off of Grand Boulevard. So here we get a look at the subject property and the surrounding zoning. Mostly it's all Old Town mixed use district, but there is some PD with the Sullivan Brothers PD across Grand Boulevard to the west. And the uses are mostly single family residences. And then there's that restaurant, Iguanaranas, across Grand Boulevard to the west. In terms of the future land use plan, the subject property as well as all the surrounding properties are within the compact residential place type, which includes single family, primary land uses include single family detached homes, duplexes, townhomes. A little bit of history on the property. The southern portion of the property was developed with a residence in 1942, with the rest of the properties going up to the north, remaining or currently being undeveloped, and it was annexed into the city in 1959. And so here we get a look at the 4 duplex units, overall 8 units, getting their access off of South Grand Boulevard, which is on the left-hand side of your screen, and the alley, which is to the back, would be on the right-hand side. And so here we see those units. And so with these units, they'd be proposing having a garage, like 1 parking space for a garage, and then the driveway would be the other parking space. And I'll show you the floor plans in a little, so the layout will make a little more sense. And additionally, they're proposing landscaping to meet the UDC requirements for landscaping for each lot. We're going to look at some of the renderings that were provided for the proposed development. This is just a look kind of with the renderings or elevations with kind of what it would look like with trees or with the street trees that would be required. And so here we get a look at the floor plan. I guess first to note the garages. You'll see there's 2 garages. Those are, I'll call them, they're shared between Unit 1 and Unit 2. But then whenever you go into the separate units, they're broken up by floors instead of kind of being cut down the middle. They're broken up by floors. So Unit 1 would be on the first floor, and you would kind of enter your garage, and I guess you got to go outside, and then you would enter your front door. And then the second unit, they have their garage downstairs, but then they'll go upstairs to their unit on the second floor. So they're separated by first floor and second floor, not down the middle, how you sometimes may see a duplex. It's looking at the review criteria. The proposed 2-family dwelling units is consistent with the compact residential place type, as duplexes are a primary land use. In terms of the thoroughfare plan, the subject property has frontage along Grand Boulevard, which is a minor collector with sufficient width. In terms of the UDC, the subject site will need to meet the requirements of the Old Town Mixed Use District. And in terms of utilities, they do currently have access to water and sewer along Grand Boulevard. And the sewer runs in the alley behind, which is pretty normal for the Old Town area. As looking at the approval criteria, staff found that the requests met 6 of the 7 criteria. Specifically, the one that it does meet is it does not generate hazardous pedestrian and vehicular traffic. And it should be noted that staff is concerned that proposed driveways may conflict with future plans to enhance the streetscape of Grand Boulevard as detailed in the draft of the Old Town Revitalization Plan. And additionally, staff has added a condition regarding those, which is provided on the next slide. And so staff recommends approval of the requested CUP with the following conditions. Condition 1 is that the applicant shall provide rear-loaded garages with access from the alley, and the garage shall be set back 20 feet from the rear property line in order for a vehicle to have adequate space to park in the driveway without encroaching into the alley. That's to ensure that you got 1 parking space in the driveway and then 1 within the garage to meet your requirement for 2 per unit. And the second condition is that a balcony or front porch will be required for each unit with a minimum size of 10 feet in width by 6 feet in depth. And additionally, if support is provided for the rear-loaded garages for the proposed use, the commission may consider whether additional conditions should be added regarding design elements for the front, side, or rear facades of the proposed buildings. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, staff. That takes us to applicant presentation. Is the applicant present? All right, and your name and address for the record, please.
Brian Starr, 2818 Morenci Street, Pearland. My anxiety's about right here, right now, so sorry. I moved to Pearland when I was 9 years old with my family. First house we bought was Old Town Site, Pearland, on the corner of Pear. My first house I bought as an adult was 24 years old on the corner of Pearland and Pear Avenue, or Pear Street. Bought that house for a reasonable price. I guess I'll just shoot through it. So I'm good with everything the staff proposed, with exception of the rear alleyway. Feasibility, it just can't happen. What our goal was, our ultimate goal was to bring housing to Pearland that was somewhat affordable. My kids could afford to live here, right? Right now, my daughter's looking for a house. She can't afford to look in Pearland. I'd love for her to be here. I've tried to get her here, but she can't do it, right? So our goal was we've tried to get these small bungalow type residences in the 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath on the ground floor. We were looking at $1,650 running pro formas, $1,650 a month, which is pretty dang good for this area. But if we have to extend an alleyway, it's just not feasible. I mean, and I don't think that anybody can do it with the 4 lots that are left there. And I've got, can I stick this thing in here to pull something up? How do I share my screen? Would hold it up. It's just that when you open it up, it'll say meeting. All right, so that's the current conditions of where we're at on Grand Boulevard. So currently where we're at, you got the green squares. It's 1, 2, 3. There's 7 existing driveways out there. 2 of them are mine. I mean, there's 6 residences, 6 dwellings. So take our lots out of it. There's 5 dwellings, 5 driveways. I mean, I don't physically see how it's feasible to put an alleyway coming off down. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And if we have to do it, it pretty much kills what we want to do. Ultimately, that's all I had.
Okay, if we have any questions, we'll call you back up. Okay, we have persons wishing to speak for or against this item. Okay, you want to take the podium? Yeah, yep. Go ahead to the podium, Rick, and somebody get it from you. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Rick Sims. I live at 1931 Timber Creek here in Pearland. I'm also owner of a business that is in the neighborhood of this proposed development. Our business is Sims Automotive. We've been there for 42 years. We are, I would say, less than a block away from this. My wife, Robin, has been a member of the Old Town Site planning. No, this isn't the correct terminology, but it's the Old Town Site redevelopment, revitalization. That's the, and, our concern when we got to see the plan for this is that we don't feel like this fits the Old Town Site plan. It was stated that Grand Street was going to be the heart and spine of the Old Town Site, improvements. And, we were all very pleased, or I'd say most of the residents were pleased when Sullivan Brothers brought out their plan for their homes. So far, they've, after building several homes, we still are. And there was a citizen that owned, a lot over on Park Street, right next to AAH Instruments on Park, which is just a half a block down the street from me, and he wanted to build a duplex on that property, and it was rejected because it did not coincide, or should I say blend in with the plan of this area. And, in the plan, the property where they're wanting to build these duplexes, it was discussed that it would be for either small business or single family dwelling. And I think if you go back and look at the notes, you'll find that. The other thing is, you've already stated from your oversight, is that, you're talking about one garage per dwelling. And, of my observation, I'd say 90% of most people use a one-car garage to put their junk in. Very few people are going to park a car in it. You're talking about a duplex that's going to have 2 one-car garages, and then you've got at least 2 people minimum, you would think, on average, that are going to live in each one of these dwellings. With 8 total buildings, that's 16 people. And most people are not going to want to park in single file. Like, if you have a car in the garage, what if that person needs to leave and then there's a person parked in the driveway behind the garage? So I think it's going to present an overwhelming number of cars wanting to park out in the street. I'm just pointing this stuff out past the point of the fact that I don't believe it fits the plan to have multifamily dwellings there. But right now, Grand, as it stands, there's not really, you're going to have to park on the side of the road if you are parking out in the street on a fairly decent incline there. I just, to me, it's not realistic. And then,
Rick, please wrap it up. You've had over 3 minutes.
Okay, well, that's really it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak for or against it? All right, seeing none, that we're going to open it up for commission. Trey, do you have anything?
Yep. So I'm looking at our next item, which is the, approval of the revitalization plan, and the way I see it is maybe not to the exactitude, but pictorially, this looks like it does fit the proposed section from Pear to Walnut. I'm looking at some renderings with multi-story. It could be single family, but they're multi-story in that section, trying to promote walkable space along the Grand Link on the outside sections. I mean, to me, I think this fits in what the revitalization plan is trying to do. Maybe not exactly, like to the nth degree, but I think that it's there. There hasn't been any talk as to how we would mitigate any sort of traffic or parking along those streets, moving forward within the plan. I know there was talk about during festivals and whatnot, Grand Street would be closed down for street festivals in certain sections and this and that. So, I mean, to me, it's doesn't look like a bad product. It looks like a product that more or less fits the space, provides some different kind of home opportunities in Pearland, and isn't way outside of what we're trying to do for the area moving forward.
I guess I would disagree only that this, I like the look, but the use itself, I'm not sure I can get there. I know the affordability diminishes with the back alley entrance. I understand this site plan may not work. If that were the case, it'd be a different building altogether for each of these. But and I mean this with the utmost respect, not to sound cavalier or anything. Sullivan Brothers made it work. I would hope that the alleyway, which I know was a big part of their coming to the city or acceptance by the city, I would hope that we could get there with this project. And I say that because I've watched council, I've watched it with other cities. The two-car garage or the garage just staring at you straight in the face from the street has not been the desired look. And in this case, we'd have 4 units with the garages, pretty much the garages by themselves, with a little bit of articulation, sidewalks going to the side. There's very little on each side. And then the entrances towards the middle of the building, which I think is a great concept. I wish it were backwards. And the garage is facing the rear of the property. I just think we spent a lot of time with Old Town site. I just don't know if this meets the character and the vision that we had. So that's where I'm at.
I think this is one of those products that we were talking about as far as bringing in different types of housing. And on this particular, I think these lots were meant for these type of dwelling units. But my only concern is, are these for rent or for sale? Can you go to the podium? Okay.
They will be for rent.
They're rent. Okay.
They're rentals.
So how is that handled when there's a living space? I guess would they ever be sold potentially?
Yes, it would be sold as a pair. You could never sell them individually.
Oh, okay.
So you would have to sell a duplex as a whole, which, I mean, in total, I mean, the way that we've got these things, and they're pretty simplistic, but I mean, we should be able to build them and sell them for a duplex, pretty much what Sullivan Brothers is selling right now. The inside of them is going to be very comparable. We're still going to have granite tops. We're going to have very nice cabinets, shaker style. We're going to have crown molding. We're going to have baseboard. It's going to look like the Sullivan's house Sullivan Brothers development over there inside. I mean, it's not going to be just thrown together. I've been, for a living, this is what I do for the past 25 years. I build, multifamily developments for, a huge developer, builder, owner. And that's what I do. And my goal is to have something for my retirement. I mean, really, that's what it's for. So I can have some passive income for my retirement.
Could somebody from the city tell me, is Sullivan Brothers, are they two family dwelling units? I thought they were
No, they're single.
individual homes.
Sullivan's, and the applicant just said as well, Sullivan's single family or sell
Yeah,
product.
so I mean, I'm not opposed to a two-family dwelling, but I mean, on a little bit bigger plot. But I think that this is kind of going against what we were okay with the smaller lots being a single-family dwelling.
I believe I could have, when we first, and I'm sorry, I should have gotten all this out earlier, but when we first bought the property, I mean, what we were kicking around, and what we could have permitted from originally is townhouses, 3 to 12. I mean, we could have done that without doing this conditional use. Then we said, it's really not the feel, it's not the feeling of the place, and then we have 7 driveways coming out, not just 4. So we tried to do the right thing, and I'm starting to think it probably wasn't the right thing.
Yeah, I think that I think I'm more on board with this each dwelling is its own separate one. But then again, I understand the whole alleyway thing. I think that there's a whole group of homes behind this.
Yeah, I mean, can we pull that up again? I'm sorry.
They do not have access to an alleyway, and they're parked along the front. However, I think Grand Boulevard is on this. I think this is a tough spot because Grand Boulevard is also an area where the city wants to revitalize the road. And this is why they're asking for it in the alleyway. So I just don't know how I would want to vote at this point. And I apologize. I think considering the city's plans for this road, I'm just not sure.
I do understand
where I am on the subject of alleyway versus driveways along the front. And so I guess that's just my thoughts. But thank you for your time.
My only take in looking at this is the size of the garage is tiny. I mean, it's tiny. The average size garage, when I looked it up, is 12 by 20 for a single garage. So, there's just not many vehicles unless someone has just a small car is all that's going to fit in it.
Okay, we've gone through an exercise. It's the Old Town revitalization, and this isn't what anybody in that meeting had in mind. They weren't looking for realms. We were hoping that we would have something that people would have ownership over in that area, such as the Sullivan project and stuff. This is a difficult area over there because people are so have in their mind a certain area over there. And I know at one time they wanted to make it an Old Town Spring like thing. That's probably never going to happen, but there is a chance. And we've worked on several things here lately about trying to trying to get things to a certain feel and a certain look over in that area. And we've had a lot of input on it. We probably had over 100 people in that Old Town site revitalization project that we were sitting there and we all talked about it. We all come up with ideas and we kind of got it in a matter of fact, that's the last thing on our agenda tonight is to go over that plan. But we've got it to a place to where we as, and when I say we we in a very large portion of residents that want to see that area built a certain way. And, Sullivan Brothers come in there with a certain look. It was appealing to all the businesses in the area there. The main thing, it was build to own, make a walkable community out of it. If this was on the other side of 35, I'd have no problem. They've already got plenty of these duplexes over there. Unfortunately for y'all, it's on this side, and I think that it's just a totally different feel in that area right there for what the people that went through that Old Town site had in mind. So that being said, I guess we're going to take it to a vote now. Anybody else? Okay, do we need to, do you want to staff amend this with staff recommendations? Yeah. Yeah, if you don't want the amendments, you can say no.
I don't have a problem amending my motion to include staff recommendations.
I will second that.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay. We're going to call for the vote. All those in favor of this proposal, sign by raising your right hand. All those against, same sign. Fails 0-6. All right, that brings us to consideration and possible action conditional use permit application CUP 2025-0366. Public hearing, a request by Genesis Property Development applicant on behalf of Endress Hauser, Inc., owner, for approval of a conditional use permit for an expansion to an existing development for a warehouse and light assembly use within the Beltway district of the Clear Creek Spectrum plan development on approximately 16.921 acres. General location 14,525 Kirby Drive, Pearland, Texas. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
Commissioner Hendricks, make a motion.
Commissioner Haskins, I'll second.
All right, that takes it to staff report.
Thank you, Chair. So the proposal tonight, the applicant is proposing a 18,150 square foot expansion onto the existing Endress Hauser development. The expansion is for, as mentioned, a warehouse and light assembly use. And this subject property is within District A of the Clear Creek Spectrum PD, which requires approval of a conditional use permit for the proposed use. To date, staff has not received any comments in support or against the request. As mentioned, this property is within the Clear Creek Spectrum PD, specifically District A, and it's surrounded by a mixture of that same PD to the south, and then some Spectrum 1 zoning to the east and west, as well as Beltway to the north, which is outside of Pearland's jurisdiction. And surrounding uses, as mentioned, is the Beltway. The property to the south is under construction currently, and then there's just undeveloped land to the east and west. In terms of the future land use plan, the subject property is within the professional services and industrial place type, which is the same place type for the surrounding properties. So a little history on the property. It was annexed into the city in 1999, first platted in 2019, then the plat was amended in 2021, and it was developed with the existing buildings in 2019. So here we get a look at the subject property with the underlying layer is the aerial showing the existing conditions. And then additionally, there's some proposed expansions. Specifically, the expansion that is the subject of this CUP is outlined in red. And that's that 18,150 square foot expansion. And here we get kind of a closer look. So it's being added on to an existing portion of the building, and that area is outlined in red. That will be the proposed expansion. And here we get some just preliminary elevations of the proposed expansion. This would be looking from the south of the property. And then here we get another elevation of the proposed expansion from Kirby Drive. So this is if you're standing actually, and more if you were, this is in the parking, but so Kirby Drive would be even further back. But this is how it would look from Kirby Drive. And it should be noted that there are specific design requirements within that PD that would dictate the design. So in terms of the review criteria, the proposed use is consistent with the professional services and industrial place type. Additionally, it meets the thoroughfare plan. In terms of the Unified Development Code, it will meet all the requirements of the Clear Creek Spectrum PD, and the site also has access to water and sewer. And so staff found that the request met all 7 of the approval criteria for a conditional use permit and is consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the requested CUP as presented. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, that brings us to applicant presentation. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Joy Skidmore, P.O. Box 91, Plainfield, Indiana. I'm here with Bill Poland with Genesis Property Development, who's responsible for managing the design and the construction. He was also managed the design and construction of all of the original campus in 2019. Also here is Brandon Ferguson. He's here from Anderson Hauser. So if there are any questions about operations of the current facility or the proposed expansion, we have the whole team here and could answer any questions you might have. But Anderson Hauser purchased this property and developed this campus with the idea of expansion in mind. And so you can see the future expansion that they've already started planning, and this is just the first step in that future expansion.
Okay, thank you. If we have any questions, we'll call you up. All right, that moves us to persons wishing to speak for or against this. Okay, seeing no one move there, I'm going to ask one more time, people wishing to speak for or against this item. Seeing none, we're going to open it up for a commission. Jennifer, you want to start?
I don't have any opposition to this.
Okay, Tommy.
I want to commend you on a well put together permit or presenting for our approval for CUP. So I am certainly not opposed to this. Very good job. Thank you.
I guess it's my turn. First, thank you for opening up your business in Pearland. And if an expansion's what you want and it's within our rules and guidelines, and I know sometimes that can be a big headache, I appreciate very much that you went through that and that you are expanding your business in Pearland. And the next one is going to be a yes for me too. So keep growing. And I'm sorry you came all the way to Indiana to watch 5 hearings before you, or 4. So welcome to the state of Texas, and we're not all unfriendly. Thank you.
Speak for yourself.
It's a yes for me.
Thanks again for coming and picking up roots in Pearland. Just a quick question, because I don't see it anywhere on here. I'm assuming it's there. You're putting a lot more concrete on the ground. I'm assuming all the stormwater runoff, all of that's taken care of, pre-existing, all that detention.
Yeah, that's correct. This was all master planned. So we designed the original campus back in 2019 with this thought in mind. Yeah.
Good job. And where in Indiana?
I'm from Plainfield, and Anderson Hauser is in Greenwood.
Okay, we just came from Indianapolis and Martinsville, so.
Not everybody's friendly, but most of us. All right. I'm really pleased that y'all came to Pearland. This is a great place to live. and a great place to have a business. Over there, you are right there in the hub of where you need in and out access and the whole 9 yards. So I'm really pleased to be with y'all, and I will also be affirmative on this. So that brings us to the vote. All those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Carries 6-0. Okay. All right, that brings it down to the last item of the night. Consideration and possible action of Old Town Revitalization Plan. A request by the City of Pearland applicant for the approval of Old Town Revitalization Plan. Do we do a motion? I need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
Good evening.
Okay, that takes us to the staff report.
Yes. So thanks, Chair. It's going to be me for this evening for Old Town. And hoping to keep it kind of brief, simply because I think at this point, I hope we're all feeling a sense of arrival. We're going to walk through a few numbers and a few highlights, but overall, I really do hope this is going to check a pretty big box, and it's something we're going to be proud of. So with that, I did want to refresh on the partners for this project, top left, and making this possible, and given community development the voluntold opportunity to do this was our Economic Development Corporation, and it's been an awesome project to get to spearhead. Again, we'll get to see some of that participation here in a moment. But Olson was our lead consultant on this, supported by Baxter Woodman and CDS for some of the marketing piece of it. So I wanted to start out, and as I was thinking about how to do this one, I really kept coming back to this acknowledgement and taking a moment to show these names. So up top is the almost 50 strong stakeholder group that met repetitively on this project, some of which had P&Z commissioners were even part of the stakeholder group. And below that are the different boards and elected officials that the project went to multiple times. And so you've got City Council, PDC Board, Planning and Zoning Commission. This went in front of the Chamber of Commerce's board. It went in front of our Pearland Prosperity Board multiple times. And what's not shown up here is about the 20 or so staff members who served as the technical committee. And so all in all, that comes to about 80 people who live and breathe in this community and work in a professional capacity and care about how it grows that met on this for the better part of a year. And so whenever you have that when you have that size stakeholder involvement and buy-in, it leads to engagement like this. And so we ended up getting our final numbers in and ended up breaking 10,000 participants in the project. And so really big milestone, not only for the community, but something very proud of from the department standpoint. Put in a tremendous amount of effort to get these numbers. And so if you add up the blue numbers on the left, those come to right at 67,000 people that the project was shared with, and 11,200 of those ended up participating either through the website or survey or in person or the virtual open houses. So again, that's a record-setting number for the City of Pearland across any plan, and I think it really is a testament to the support and care that Pearland has for Old Town. So I do want to take a moment just to refresh on some of the numbers and look at some of the fun survey data we got. So in the top right, if you're looking to expand your business, would you consider Old Town? 64% said yes. Over on the left, what are your connections to Old Town? 72% pass through, 52% say they visit, and then you have work and business owners. On this one, again, just kind of quickly summarizing. So the top reasons that people visit Old Town are for dining and shopping, and that's across weekends or weekdays. And again, just wanted to show these to refresh for just a moment, but we're going to continue to move through. So the vision statement, this was crafted in the very beginning, and it held up pretty well throughout the conversation. But Old Town Pearland blends history, culture, and modern growth with sustainable infrastructure, distinctive design, walkability, and vibrant public spaces. Prioritizing safety, accessibility, and local businesses, it thrives as a connected, welcoming destination of choice for all. So here is the framework or the chapters that the plan ended up getting broken down into. So you have 6: land use and character, placemaking and public spaces, mobility and connectivity, development and redevelopment, utilities and infrastructure, and then the 5 catalyst sites or the 5 big ideas. I'm not going to dive into each one of these, but each one has its own implementation and recommendations for moving forward and as we move over the next essentially decade of implementing the Old Town Revitalization Plan. So just taking a moment to show the big ideas and where those all landed. So you have idea number one, the Depot District. That's north of Broadway at that Jasmine kind of 35 area. There's a large amount of vacant land in there. Idea number two, the Grand Link. Through the conversation, a tremendous amount of support for that happened, and we were even able to see some activation occur through Dinner on Grand, which the Chamber put on, and then also Pearland Arts and Eats, which Visit Pearland and our Parks and Recreation Department put on, and is also scheduled for a year 2 next year already, so that's awesome. Idea number 3 in the bottom right is Cinder Square, kind of a mixture of live, work, or multifamily and retail with some green space in there. And then number 4 is the Broadway Street realignment. So this is that consideration for either the one-way pair, how it was originally tabled, or as the plan ended up finding was a potentially more suitable solution would be to push the Broadway traffic down to Walnut and consider that actual swapping of those roads, and Walnut becoming the FM or the TxDOT road, and Broadway becoming more of an actual downtown or Old Town feel with on-street parking. Still a lot more research to do on that, but that's just what the plan ended up coming up with and recommending. And then number 5 is South Junction. More commonly, that's where the Seven Hughes is, abandoned Seven Hughes restaurant. And there's been ongoing conversation there, but again, some dining, maybe some light retail, boutique-style shopping is what that's envisioning. And I'm not going to dive into all of them, but I did want to show a few images from the Grand Festival Street. And just for one, we did get to see that activation and had Dinner on Grand, followed by the Arts and Eats. And just to show some of the fun images associated with it, here you can see the green space and the walking trails on either side. And also the brick pavers replacing the existing asphalt in Grand itself. Again, just a few more renderings just to kind of show how the space could look, followed by closing off the road and adding some activation to it for just whatever type of a festival, cook-off, or whatever was going on seasonally. And then this is just a few photos actually from Pearland, the Grand Arts and Eats event. Again, this is already scheduled for year 2, and I think it's in May next year. And so, but just these are actual pictures from an event that happened on Grand Boulevard at Zaklinski Park, the heart of our community, this past year, and is certainly want to thank Visit Pearland and Parks and Rec for putting this on, and showing love for the plan and getting that activation going. So, and then also just to show next steps. So this is going to go hopefully in front of council on September 22nd for adoption. And with that, I'll bounce it to you, Chair. And just a quick clarity, this is for y'all's recommendation, and that's just more me cleaning up something. It says possible action on the agenda, and so, but y'all are not the approving body. Y'all be making a recommendation to council. And yeah, Chair, I'll bounce it back to you.
Thank you, Vance. Okay, it's open to discussion. Anybody wishing to speak about it? I think we've talked this thing to death. Go ahead.
I think that I'm not sure that it makes sense to make Walnut where FM 518 is just because of the right-of-way width, because I'm not sure if Walnut has sufficient right-of-way width to carry. Assuming, yeah.
No, great comment, and something that our engineering and public works have been working on getting modeling done, and it would be a huge undertaking, but that is just through the plan and through discussion. It's another concept apart from the one-way pair that was discussed. But yeah, no, tremendous amount of modeling, huge public effort, and a huge political lift that would have to get done in the future.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Vance, can I want to piggyback on that really quick. Were the options for, and I'm not trying to get back into it, did we prioritize which option we wanted for that realignment? Like Walnut being one, option 1, putting it all back on where Broadway is being option 2, or priority 2, that way it's like, okay, if plan A fails, right? Like TxDOT doesn't take Walnut, take over the maintenance once they're not even willing to entertain that. It's like, okay, well, what's plan B? Did we prioritize any of those yet?
I'm going to say yes and no. And I say it that way. So Old Town Revitalization Plan is not a regulatory creating document. So meaning it's not a UDC, it's not an EDCM or something like that. And HGAC's study actually envisioned and came out with the one-way pair is the most efficient way to move traffic through Old Town. And so that's been found. As far as your most efficient way to move traffic, it's the one-way pair to date based off modeling. However, through this process, the idea was tabled about, well, what if you did 2 lanes in either way? And then it went, well, what if you just go ahead and do 3 lanes in either way with a turn lane on Walnut? And so it really was just coming up with scenarios. But still a tremendous amount of, I just can't chalk up enough how preliminary it all is. And to your point, the conversations with TxDOT would have to happen. Essentially like a damage assessment is the terminology I've been using, would have to happen for what happens when you get that right away on Walnut, and then just kind of a pros and cons analysis. And then ultimately, we are an auto-centric community, as most of Texas is. Would we want to just lean on what moves cars the fastest? And that said, and the reason the Old Town Revitalization Plan came up with the recommendation about moving that traffic south to Walnut is it is the only opportunity to give yourself a walkable downtown experience. If anything else, if you're going to push vehicles through downtown at 45 miles an hour, you are not going to have that walkable experience. And this plan's goal and vision was to come up with how do you get that in this community. And so it's just for us to consider and vote on in the future.
These things take a lot of effort and a lot of work, and much appreciated by city staff who has to be ready for all this. The only true issue I have is not anything that's been done or decided. I think each individual portion here, the 1 through 5, is well thought out. I'm impressed by the names that were in that group in slide 1 or 2. They're a great collection of a lot of our community leadership. Got my feelings hurt because I wasn't in there or invited. No, I'm kidding. I think it's a great. Oh no, I totally am. I've been on multiple Old Town site committees. And I very much appreciate that this one went way above and beyond what we did in the scope of some of the other ones. And I'm talking early 2000s and 2004, 5, 6, 7, around there. This is so far advanced in its scope as well, in vision. My biggest concern is that this goes in front of council, and then it's going to take somebody with a deep pocket to do some of these things. Some of these things are multi-million-dollar, and I don't know in the current economic climate. And I get it. This is more policy and an overall. We do need that participation. I hope we get it, but I don't have my fingers crossed. And yes, so very much appreciate the efforts that went into it and all the thinking that went behind it. So I hope it's a framework for somebody to come in and put that money in. And just like, I think you said, was it Ford's restaurant? Is that? It used to be Ford's way back when, yes. Would love somebody to take that and I know that tear it down, what have you. I've toured the building. I work for a gentleman that actually was the broker. We had it under contract. We went and looked at it on behalf of somebody else. Being in the, I don't even want to say I was in the restaurant business. I had sandwich shops. That's not the same thing. But wow, it would take a lot of effort to bring that up to code number 1. But it is a better tear down. So, anyways. I babbled enough. Thank you for all the efforts, and I fully support this with those concerns.
The only thing I'm going to say about it, I know we've talked this thing to death, and there's been a lot of hours that we spent on that revitalization, and we had a lot of participation. I was really, really happy to see the turnout that we had and the amount of people that responded to the emails and stuff. I like the idea of the main thing. I'd never really thought of it, even in all our talks and stuff, about making Walnut the new 518. But I think that works because then you take Broadway and where Killian's trying to get across the street to go to lunch at Killian's, their barbecue is a suicide mission. Then all of a sudden you got a chance, you're at least at 50-50 chance of getting across there without getting hit. And I like that idea. And I'm going to, I like this. And to Henry's concerns about, I know what he's talking about. We've done this 2 or 3 times in the history, and it's always fallen on deaf ears. But I think we got a mayor that's really intent about getting this done and almost leaving this as kind of a legacy to him, kind of like building the city was Tom's kind of legacy. This is something that the current mayor can sink his teeth into, and he has the connections. We've got other parts of groups that are also interested in bringing businesses and such to this area. So hopefully this time it won't just vaporize at some point. It'll actually come to a part, and I hope it's in the time that I'm still here. So that's all I've got to say. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Okay,
one other comment. If it doesn't work out to switch Broadway to Walnut or vice versa, then a pedestrian bridge connecting across between 1 and 5 is probably an alternative option. So make that walkable. That's it.
All right. Anybody else?
Yes.
I mean,
Vance, I'm just going to say the Grand Link, that's going to make or break the city. And I think if we can do this as it's being portrayed through all of the renditions, it's going to be a slam dunk. And Vance, thank you for your work on that. Wanted to say that publicly while we're in hearing, and with that, I call the question.
all righty. Let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of sending it to council, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Passes 6-0. All right. That takes us to City Council update report.
Good evening, everyone. The last City Council meeting was on August 25th, and there were no planning items. The next City Council and P&Z joint workshop is on September 8th. We have 2 workshops. One is on Broadway Street in Oak for multifamily, and then the other workshop is at Old Alvin Road and McCard for townhouse residential.
Okay, is there anybody know that they're not going to be able to make the workshops or the next P&Z meeting?
I'm out of town September 15th.
Okay. No, she's talking about on the 15th. She's not going to be here. Okay.
Can I? Oh, are we still going to go down the list?
Yeah. Well, no, I was asking, right now I'm asking, does anybody know that they're going to miss any of those dates, the 8th, the 15th, or the 22nd?
I'll definitely communicate with you. I think I'm going to be here for all 3, but I may be going out of state. If the workshops are on September 8th, what's on September 22nd?
It's another workshop.
It's a UDC joint workshop.
UDC, okay.
It's a multifamily.
Yeah, multifamily request at Broadway and Oak, and then a townhouse residential request at Old Alvin and McCard. A similar one that you all have seen before. They're coming back.
Okay. All righty. That leads us to adjourn at 9:04.